Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Mr. Ian Teaches English. Today we are discussing the future continuous. Now, I have already made videos about the present continuous and the past continuous, so if you did not see those, go ahead and click a button around here somewhere to find it. Future continuous, not super common, but it is one of the English tenses that, if you understand it, will certainly help your English sound better and will help you understand situations. So, let's go. Let's jump in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the future continuous. So, before we talk about the future continuous, let's talk about all continuous tenses. Now, all continuous tenses follow a pattern in their form and in their use. So in their form, we're always going to use the be verb and the base verb with ing. So the future continuous uses the future of be and that base verb plus ing. Also, in their use, we also talk about things that happen at the same time. All continuous tenses talk about things that happen at the same time. Except with the future continuous, it is something that is happening at the same time as something in the future. Present continuous is something happening at the same time as the present. Past continuous is something happening at the same time as something else in the past. And the future continuous is the one we're going to talk about today. Something is happening at the same time as something else in the future. Here are the forms, the affirmative, the negative, and the questions. If you want to pause it here to, take a picture or write it down or practice with these forms, go ahead. I will say, have a look that I did use contractions. Please, please, please use contractions, especially with the future tense. It's pretty rare to not use a contraction with the future. And learning to practice that and listen for that little old sound is going to help you a lot when you are listening to English speakers. All right, the use of the future continuous. Here we have two types of use. It is used to talk about an action that is happening at the same time in the future. So we always have this perspective. There is a future time that we're thinking about, and something is happening at the same time as that. Also, these events always take time. Continuous verbs always describe things that take time. So if it's a short action, it's pretty rare to use the continuous tense, and sometimes impossible to use the continuous tense. So, for example, if you talk about closing the door, how long does it take to close a door? Not that long. So it's pretty rare to use that in the future continuous or in any continuous for that matter. All right, now here you see two diagrams. One is probably the one that you've learned if you've studied it before, where something is happening in the future and it is interrupted by something else. So here you'll see the activity is flowing, whatever activity that is, and it is interrupted by a time in the future. The second example are two things that are happening at the same time. They are progressing at the same time. Imagine like watching TV and eating food. Right? These two events happening at the same time. Now, one really, really important thing to remember is that when we talk about time clauses, we'll see some examples on the next page. Time clauses in English are never in the future tense. We're going to use the present tense for those, and you'll see them here on the next slide. So here are some examples of that first diagram. I'll be working when you get home. Now, hold on a second. Look at that. When you get home. What verb tense is that? That's the present tense, right? But isn't this about the future? Yes, but remember, you do not use future verb tenses in time clauses. So, I'll be working. When will you be working? When you get home. That when you get home, because it is a time clause, it is not going to be used in the future tense. It will always be used in the present tense. Now, it's okay to use past tenses in time clauses, but you cannot use future tenses in time clauses. So here on this page, you'll see that I have a little little X to show you that time. And if it is a time clause, it's in italics. The words are moved over a little bit to help you identify them. But the verb tense will help you as well. All right, number 2. During dinner, I'll be doing my homework. There's a future time here. The future time is dinner. Whatever time you eat dinner, this person will be continuously doing something at the same time. Maybe they missed dinner because they have homework. Number 3. When she goes to New York, she'll be staying at the Ritz Hotel. These two things are happening at the same time. She goes to New York, she stays at the Ritz Hotel. But it's in the future, so we use future continuous. However, when she goes to New York is still written in the present tense because it's in a time clause. Now, I know you might say, Mr. Ian, shouldn't I say when she will go to New York? I understand. That makes sense. But that's not how English works. Use the present tense in time clauses. Number 4. When the library closes, the sun will be going down. Here, when the library closes is written in the present tense because it is in a time clause. And number 5, it'll be raining when your school closes. These two things are happening at the same time. School closes, raining. Now, these were more difficult to create, but you can also use this where two things are happening at the same time, and they are both continuous ideas. She'll be watching TV while I'm working. Now notice, let's say it again. Look at the time clause. She'll be watching TV when? While I'm working. While I'm working is a time clause. We do not use the future tense in a time clause. So see what we did here? We want to show that it's a continuing action, that it takes time, but it's in a time clause, so we can't use the future tense. So we use the present continuous instead. Number 2. While the teacher's teaching, the students will be sleeping. This has never happened to me, but same thing. Two things happening at the same time. One of them is in a time clause, so we can't use the future tense. We just use the present continuous. Number 3. Mom will be preparing the food while I'm making the drinks. Here, you'll see that mom will be preparing, not in a time clause, so we are free to use the future tense, while the other one is in the time clause. And you say, well, Mr. Ian, what if you switch it around? I'm glad you asked. Look at number 4. While mom's preparing the food, I'll be making the drinks. These two sentences say exactly the same thing, but they respect the rule that in a time clause, you do not use the future tense. We still use a continuous tense because we want to show that these things take time and that they are both happening at the same time, and they take time in the future. Number 5, time will move slower while you're watching the clock. So again, another example. I hope this is starting to make sense. It will probably be a little bit weird to not use the future tense when you know you're talking about the future, but I promise this is how it works. All right, now let's go on to some practice. All right, here, this is your chance to pause the video to try to work out some of these yourself. So hit the pause button, use the verbs that I gave you, and try to create good future continuous sentences, remembering that you don't use future tense in time clauses. So don't forget that. All right, let's talk about these answers. I'll be working this afternoon. This afternoon is in the future, and at that time in the future, something is in progress. She'll be talking during the first session. Again, the first session is a time in the future. Sounds like they're going to a conference. Number 3, the teacher will be grading the tests when the students arrive in class tomorrow. These two events are happening at the same time, but one is in a time clause. We cannot use it in the future tense. And also, we choose the simple present here because it's not a continuous action. Arriving somewhere is not a long action, so we can't really show that it takes time. Number 4, while he fixes the car, I'll be waiting in the lobby. I forgot my period, man. Anyway, so here Notice the time clause still uses the uses the present tense, while the one that's not in the time clause, we can use the future continuous. And number 5, the sun will be going down when we finish working. So here, the same idea. Hopefully, you were able to put these together and do it well. Now, why is this important? At the end of all of my videos, I talk about why you should learn these things, and honestly, this isn't very important, really. It's pretty rare to use in spoken conversation or in writing conversation. Maybe you'll use it to talk about plans or things that you'll do for the weekend maybe, but not really that much. It is a verb tense, so I'm going to make a video about it, but not that important. So go ahead, before you click out of this video, in the chat or in the comments, put in one of your sentences. Try to use one of those time clauses in the present tense, or if you have any questions, anything else that you think about that maybe I didn't answer, please let me know. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.